Welcome, the anointed ones. The most dangerous people aren't the loudest in the room. They're the ones who make silence feel like thunder. Here's a fact. Lions don't roar when they hunt. They stalk, they strategize, and when they move, it's game over. Sound familiar? That's you, the chosen ones. The silent storm, the calculated chaos, the unshakable force that's turning heads and sending your haters into a full-blown cardio session. Why are they running? Because they see the truth. You're not here to play, you're here to dominate. You don't just live life, you bend it, twist it, and shape it to fit your vision. They thought you were just another face in the crowd. Now they realize you are the crowd, the stage, and the spotlight. But don't worry, they'll survive, probably. After all, they might need the exercise. Number one, your existence is a plot twist. You're not just someone passing through life, you're the plot twist nobody saw coming. People expect ordinary because that's what they're used to, but you exist to disrupt the script. You're not what they had in mind when they thought of success, power, or influence. You're the curveball that sends their carefully laid plans into chaos. The most dangerous thing about you is that you're not predictable. You don't play by the rules they've memorized. They thought they had life figured out, and then you showed up to rewrite the story entirely. Your presence alone shakes things up. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it. There's something about the way you operate that keeps people guessing. You're not loud or desperate for attention, but somehow all eyes end up on you. That's because your energy demands it. You move differently. You think differently. People don't know whether to admire you or fear you, and that confusion keeps them on edge. They can't put you in a box, and it drives them crazy. What makes you truly dangerous is that you didn't come to fit in. You came to stand out. You're not trying to play a role. You're creating an entirely new one. That level of originality, it's threatening. Not because you're trying to intimidate anyone, but because you prove that the status quo isn't untouchable. People who rely on rules and expectations crumble when faced with someone like you. You're a disruptor, a game changer, and the reason why normal feels so fragile. The world isn't ready for you, and that's exactly why you're here. Number two, haters are free PR. Haters are the best thing that ever happened to you, and they don't even realize it. Every time they whisper your name, roll their eyes, or talk behind your back, they're doing free promotion. They think they're tearing you down, but they're putting a spotlight on you. The more they try to discredit you, the more they amplify your existence. They can't stop watching, commenting, and obsessing, and in doing so, they keep you relevant. Your presence consumes their energy, and they don't even charge you rent for the space you occupy in their heads. What makes it even better is that haters can't stop themselves. It's like an addiction. They hate what you stand for, but they can't look away. They keep your name alive in conversations, even in rooms you've never stepped into. Their negativity fuels curiosity, and curiosity draws people in. Suddenly, others want to know, who is this person everyone keeps talking about? Their attempts to destroy you end up building intrigue around you. Here's the irony. Their hate isn't about you. It's about them, your drive, your success, your confidence. It all exposes something in them that they wish they had. Every insult they throw your way is just a reflection of their insecurities. You remind them of their limits and they can't handle it, so they lash out thinking it'll weaken you. But what they don't realize is that you don't need their validation. The truth is, their hate is powerless against someone who knows their worth. You've learned to take their negativity and turn it into fuel. They keep throwing shade and you keep growing. They can't figure out why they're losing, and the answer is simple. You already won. They just haven't caught up yet. Number three, dangerous because you're unpredictable. What makes you truly dangerous is that no one can predict your next move. You're not tied to anyone's expectations or locked into a pattern they can decode. People love to feel like they've figured you out, like they can predict what you'll do next, but with you, they're always wrong. You keep them on edge because you don't operate like they do. They prepare for a reaction, and you give them silence. They expect you to retreat, and you come back stronger. Just when they think they've seen all you have to offer, you hit them with something new. Your unpredictability isn't a gimmick. It's who you are. It's not about being chaotic or impulsive. It's about knowing when to strike and when to stay still. You don't waste time explaining yourself or proving a point to people who don't matter. That's what scares them the most. You're not out here playing their games or following their rules. While they're busy trying to figure out your moves, you've already made 10 more they didn't even see coming. It's not just about action either. Even your presence feels unpredictable. You walk into a room and everything shifts. People don't know whether to approach you, avoid you, or study you from a distance. You carry an energy that's magnetic and unsettling at the same time. That kind of presence isn't learned, it's natural. It makes people nervous because they can't control it and they can't control you. When they finally realize they can't box you in or pin you down, that's when the fear sets in. You've become the thing they can't define, the force they can't stop, and the person they'll never fully understand. And that's what makes you untouchable. Number 4, failure is your secret weapon. Failure isn't the end for you, it's your launching pad. Where others see defeat, you see opportunity. When things fall apart, it doesn't scare you, it energizes you. Every failure is like a blueprint, showing you exactly what needs to be fixed, improved, or reimagined. While most people crumble under the weight of their mistakes, you use them as stepping stones to something bigger and better. It's not that you're immune to failure, it's that you've mastered the art of turning it into fuel. Your haters don't understand this. They sit back, waiting for you to collapse, hoping this time you'll stay down. But every time you hit the ground, you rise stronger, smarter, and more determined. To them, it looks like resilience. To you, it's just another day of refining your craft. You don't lose, you learn. And with every lesson, you become more dangerous, more capable, more unstoppable. What really unnerves them is your mindset. You're not afraid to take risks because you're not afraid to fail. You know that success isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about what you do after you make them. Most people stop at failure, but you treat it like feedback. That terrifies your haters because they realize there's no way to beat someone who treats setbacks as a challenge rather than a conclusion. Your ability to bounce back makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. They can't map out your downfall because every attempt to trip you up becomes part of your strategy. Failure doesn't weaken you, it sharpens you. It's the edge they never see coming, the secret weapon they didn't know they handed you. While they're busy hoping you'll quit, you're already on your way to your next victory. Number 5, you're their mirror, and they hate what they see. What really gets under their skin is that you're not just a person. They see you as a mirror. Every time they look at you, they're forced to confront the version of themselves they're too afraid to be. Your boldness makes their caution look like fear. Your ambition shines a harsh light on their excuses. Your success doesn't just inspire, it unsettles. It reminds them of everything they could have done but didn't. And that discomfort, that's why they hate you. They'll never admit it, of course. Instead, they'll project their insecurities onto you. They'll pick apart your choices, criticize your methods, or act like your wins are just luck. But deep down, their resentment isn't about you. It's about them. It's about the dreams they gave up on, the risks they were too scared to take, and the voice in their head that whispers, "You could have done that too." You didn't just succeed. You broke the unspoken rule that says they have to stay stuck. The thing is, you don't even try to make them feel small. You're just being you, living unapologetically, chasing what you want and refusing to settle. That's the part they can't handle. Your very existence challenges their comfort zone, and people cling to comfort like a lifeline. You're proof that the only limits are the ones they put on themselves, and it's easier to hate you than face that truth. What they don't realize is that their fear of you has nothing to do with your achievements. It's about what those achievements say about their lack of effort. You're not their enemy. You're their wake-up call. But instead of answering it, they'd rather cover their ears and pretend you're the problem. Number 6, your silence is deafening. Your silence speaks volumes, and it shakes people to their core. While others scramble to explain themselves, justify their choices, or clap back at critics, you say nothing, and that's what makes you so terrifying. You don't need to defend your reputation because your results do the talking. Your achievements, your growth, and your presence are all the proof anyone needs. When you walk into a room, the air changes. It's not arrogance, it's certainty. You don't beg for respect, you command it without a single word. The truth is, people fear what they can't predict or control. Silence unnerves them because it leaves room for their imagination to fill the gaps, and in your case, their imagination runs wild. They assume you're calculating, strategizing, plotting your next move, and maybe you are. But the beauty of your silence is that they'll never know for sure. That uncertainty eats away at them more than anything you could say. When haters come for you, they expect a reaction. They want you to lash out, argue, or explain yourself. But when you stay quiet, you strip away their power. You don't waste energy proving them wrong because their opinions are irrelevant to your mission. Every second they spend trying to tear you down is a second you spend leveling up. Your silence is a mirror, reflecting their insecurities back at them. It forces them to sit with their own doubts, their own failures, their own shortcomings. And in that quiet, they realize something that terrifies them. You don't just survive criticism, you thrive in spite of it. While they're busy talking, you're busy winning. And that's why your silence is louder than any noise they could ever make. Number 7, they can't compete with the blueprint. You're not just ahead of the curve, you are the curve. While others are scrambling to figure out what's next, you've already moved on to something they didn't even know existed. You're not chasing trends, you're creating them, shaping them, and leaving your mark. They try to copy you, but by the time they've pieced together your last move, you've already laid out 3 new ones. It's not a competition, it's a game they don't even realize they're losing. What makes you so untouchable is that your strategy isn't built on imitation or shortcuts. It's built on originality, vision, and a deep understanding of your purpose. People can copy the surface-level stuff, your style, your tactics, your approach, but they'll never grasp the essence of what drives you. That's why their efforts always fall flat. They think success is something they can steal, but for you, it's something you build from the ground up. And while they're busy watching you, you're not even paying attention to them. You're too focused on staying true to your path, too busy innovating and executing to care about who's trying to keep up. That's the real difference between you and them. You're playing by your own rules, and they're stuck trying to figure out the game. The best part? They'll never admit that you're the one they're watching. They'll act like they've always known what to do, like their moves are original, but deep down they know the truth. You set the pace, you control the narrative, and you make the rules. Competing with you isn't just difficult, it's impossible. Number 8. Your focus is terrifying. Focus is your superpower, and it's the one thing your haters can't handle. While they're spending their time watching your every move, waiting for you to slip up, you're not even acknowledging their existence. You've got tunnel vision, locked in on your goals, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can pull you off track. That kind of focus is rare, and it's exactly why you're so dangerous. Your haters are terrified because they realize they can't distract you. Most people would crumble under the pressure of being watched, criticized, and judged, but not you. You don't need to respond to their noise because their noise doesn't matter. Every ounce of energy you have is dedicated to the grind, to building something that can't be ignored. You're so locked in that you make the distractions around you seem trivial, and that's what scares them the most. They don't know how to deal with someone who's so unbothered. They want you to falter, to get caught up in the drama, to waste time worrying about their opinions. But you're too disciplined for that. Your focus is a reminder of what they lack, the ability to keep their eyes on the prize without getting lost in the chaos. When you're this focused, you move differently. You don't get sidetracked by comparisons or self-doubt because you're too busy working on your craft. You don't care who's watching or what they're saying. You're only concerned with the finish line. And the scariest part for your haters, they know that kind of focus is unstoppable. Number 9, your comeback game is ruthless. When life tries to knock you down, it's not the end. It's the beginning of a new chapter. Every setback you face is just another opportunity for you to come back stronger, smarter, and more relentless than ever. People think they've seen the worst of you when you fail, But what they don't realize is that your setbacks are just warm-ups for your comebacks. What makes your comeback game so ruthless is that it's never just about bouncing back. You don't just recover, you rise. You don't just return, you dominate. Every time they think you're out for the count, you show up on a whole new level, making it impossible for them to ignore you. Your resilience isn't just inspiring, it's intimidating. It reminds everyone watching that you're not just built to endure, you're built to thrive. Haters love to celebrate your failures. They think it's their moment to shine, their chance to finally get ahead. But what they don't realize is that every time they count you out, they're only setting themselves up for disappointment. You don't stay down long enough for them to enjoy it. Instead, you take every setback as a lesson, turning every loss into a weapon. The beauty of your comebacks is that they're unpredictable. People never see them coming, and when they hit hard. Your ability to turn adversity into advantage is what sets you apart. You've turned setbacks into stepping stones, haters into motivators, and failure into a force that propels you forward. By the time they realize what's happening, you're already miles ahead, proving once again that no obstacle can hold you back. Your comebacks don't just make a statement, they leave an impact that nobody can ignore. Number 10, you redefine dangerous. Danger isn't about brute force or reckless actions, it's about control. You've mastered the art of discipline, and that terrifies people who are ruled by their impulses. You know who you are, what you want, and how to get there, and you don't let emotions or outside noise derail you. That kind of inner control, it's rare and it's powerful. While others are chasing approval, validation, or quick wins, you're calm, calculated, and focused on the long game. What makes you so dangerous is that your power comes from within. It's not borrowed, bought, or dependent on anyone else's opinion. You don't need flashy distractions or constant attention to feel significant. You've already found your worth, and it's unshakable. People can't manipulate you because you're not chasing what they're offering. They can't rattle you because you've already mastered your emotions. That level of self-possession is something most people will never achieve, and it scares them. Your danger lies in your consistency. You don't burn out, lash out, or act out of desperation. You move with purpose and precision, making every step count. People who rely on chaos to win can't handle someone who thrives in order. They don't know how to deal with a person who doesn't react but instead responds with intention. You've redefined what it means to be a threat. It's not about being unpredictable in a wild sense. It's about being untouchable because of your control. That's a power that can't be copied, stolen, or faked. It's yours, and it's the kind of power that keeps people guessing and running. Number 11. You have nothing left to prove. When you stop seeking validation, you become unstoppable. The moment you realize you don't need anyone's applause, approval, or acknowledgement is the moment you unlock a whole new level of freedom. That's where you are now. And that's why your haters are terrified. They can't control someone who doesn't care about their opinions. Your self-worth doesn't hinge on outside praise because you've already proven everything to yourself. You've faced your fears, conquered your doubts, and risen above every challenge life threw at you. The approval of others. It's a bonus, not a requirement. While your haters are busy trying to get under your skin, you've moved on to bigger things. Their opinions don't hold any weight because you know who you are and what you're capable of. The real kicker? Your lack of need for validation makes them irrelevant. They thrive on reactions, on drama, on the hope that their words will somehow matter to you. But when you don't even acknowledge their existence, they lose their power entirely. You're not ignoring them out of spite. You genuinely don't care. That kind of indifference is a strength they'll never understand. When you have nothing left to prove, your focus shifts entirely to your own goals. You're no longer sidetracked by the noise, and that scares people who rely on distraction to stay relevant. Your silence, your calm, and your self-assurance make them feel small because it highlights everything they're still chasing. You're free, and that freedom is the ultimate power. Number 12. Legends are built on controversy. No one remembers the quiet ones who went unnoticed. They remember the ones who made waves. You don't just live, you leave a mark. Love you or hate you, people can't stop talking about you, and that's what makes you unforgettable. The most polarizing figures in history were never afraid to stir the pot, and neither are you. You're not here to please everyone, you're here to make an impact. Controversy isn't a bad thing when it's rooted in authenticity. You stand for something, and that shakes people who prefer to sit on the fence. Your boldness challenges their comfort zones, and their discomfort says more about them than it does about you. They can't decide whether to admire you or despise you, and that tension is what fuels your legend. The whispers, the gossip, the criticism, it's all proof that you're doing something right. People don't talk about the ordinary. They talk about the extraordinary. Your actions, your choices, and your unapologetic existence spark conversations that ripple far beyond your reach. Every opinion about you, good or bad, adds to the mystique you're building. Your haters are part of the story, even if they don't realize it. Their fear, their anger, and their fascination with you only make you more intriguing. You don't just live rent-free in their minds, you own the whole block. They might try to tear you down, but all they're really doing is adding fuel to the fire that keeps your name alive. Legends aren't built on silence, they're built on noise. And whether it's applause or criticism, it's all just proof that you're unforgettable. Keep making waves, keep shaking the room, and let the controversy write your story. In the end, what truly makes you dangerous is not just the moves you make, but the energy you exude. You've created a world where failure doesn't faze you, where your presence alone sends shockwaves through the room, and where the opinions of others hold no weight. You're a force that can't be replicated, a blueprint that others are always trying to follow but can never catch. You're not just living your life, you're shaping it, mastering it, and owning every moment. Those who try to tear you down only fuel the fire that keeps you rising higher. Your silence leaves them speechless, your focus leaves them scrambling, and your unpredictability keeps them running. You've turned controversy into your calling card and embraced the fact that some people are going to love you while others are terrified of what you represent. But none of that matters, because at the end of the day, you have nothing left to prove. You're not chasing applause or validation, and that's what makes you unstoppable. The only opinion that matters is your own. And when you realize that, you unlock a level of power that no one can take from you. You are the legend in the making, the story that people can't stop talking about, and the one they'll never truly understand. And that, my friend, is what makes you a force to be reckoned with. Keep going, keep evolving, and keep rewriting the rules, because the world won't know what hit it when you fully unleashed your greatness. If you've been vibing with what you've just read and want more of this unapologetic, high-energy content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned, because there's so much more coming your way, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. Join the movement and let's keep rising together. Welcome the anointed ones. The greatest trick the master ever pulled was convincing the world they weren't playing the game at all. The thing about chosen ones? They don't just survive the game, they rewrite the rules, stack the deck, and make their opponents think they're still in charge. Here's the cold, brutal truth. While everyone else was busy flexing their hands, thinking they had the winning cards, you were quietly dismantling the table. Did you know that in poker, over 75% of winning hands never make it to a showdown? Winners don't rely on flashy cards. They rely on reading the room and playing their opponents. And that's exactly what you did. You didn't just play your cards right, you made them feel like they were the ones dealing. Now they're scrambling to figure out how they lost a game they thought they were controlling. It's funny, really. They thought they had you figured out, loyal, predictable, forever waiting for their approval. But when you flipped the script, it wasn't just their ego that took the hit. It was their entire belief system. Now, they feel played, and the irony is, they dealt themselves the losing hand. So buckle up. This isn't your usual tale of underdog triumph. It's a story of precision, strategy, and how the chosen ones didn't just win. They made their enemies question the very concept of the game. Number 1, the power shift was always imminent, but you accelerated it. The shift in power was never going to be sudden, it was inevitable. But you didn't just wait for it to happen. You made it happen, faster and on your own terms. What makes this sting for the other side is that they never saw it coming. even though all the signs were there. You didn't pull a lucky move. You orchestrated a series of events so seamlessly that to outsiders it looks like fate. In reality, it was calculated, deliberate, and brilliant. They thought they were untouchable, sitting comfortably at the top, convinced their grip on the game was unshakable. They underestimated how fast things can change when the right person, at the right time, makes the right move. That person was you. You didn't announce your plans or make grand declarations. You simply watched, studied, and positioned yourself where you needed to be. And then, just like that, you tipped the scale. What burns them the most is that they didn't just lose. They feel betrayed by their own arrogance. They assumed they had more time, assumed you were just another player in their game. They didn't realize you weren't waiting for permission to take the reins. You were already holding them. And now, as they scramble to make sense of it all, they can't figure out where it went wrong. The truth? It didn't go wrong. It went exactly how it was always going to go. They just didn't see it. You didn't cheat. You didn't rush. If anything, you merely sped up what was already destined to happen. And now that the shift has happened, they're left in the dust, wondering how they missed the warning signs while you're miles ahead, completely unbothered by their confusion. Number 2. You weren't just playing cards, you designed the deck. You didn't just play the cards you were dealt, you built the deck. While they thought everyone was operating under the same rules, you were quietly working behind the scenes, shaping the game in ways they never even considered. They assumed you were reacting to the hand you'd been given, but the truth is, every move you made was deliberate, every decision part of a bigger picture they couldn't see. They were so busy focusing on their own strategy that they never stopped to question the foundation of the game itself. And that's where you had them. You weren't just another player at the table. You were the architect, deciding how and when the game would unfold. While they played by the book, you rewrote it. While they relied on luck and instinct, you were calculating outcomes and anticipating their every move. Now they feel blindsided. They thought they had a chance, thought they were in control, but that was part of the illusion you created. You let them believe they had the upper hand because it kept them distracted. The more confident they became, the more they played into your hands. By the time they realized they were being outmaneuvered, it was too late. This wasn't about cheating or deception. It was about mastery. You didn't break the rules. You understood them better than anyone else and used them to your advantage. The deck wasn't rigged. It was perfectly crafted for someone with the skill and patience to use it right. That someone was you. Now they're left feeling played, not because you tricked them, but because they never even realized they weren't in control to begin with. You didn't just beat them, you made them question whether they ever had a real shot. Number 3. Revenge was never your intention, just a side effect. Revenge was never the goal. For you, this wasn't about settling scores or proving a point. It was about progress. The moves you made, the decisions that shifted everything, weren't fueled by malice. They were strategic, practical, and necessary. But now, as they sit in the rubble of their own missteps, they can't help but take it personally. That's not your problem, it's theirs. The truth is, they tied their identity to the control they thought they had over you. They built their confidence around the idea that you'd always stay in your lane, follow their rules, and play their game. When you finally outgrew all of that, it wasn't just a shift in the game, it was a threat to their sense of superiority. And that's why they feel betrayed. It's not because of anything you did. It's because your growth forced them to confront their own limits. You never intended to hurt them. You simply realized that you didn't need their approval, their systems, or their validation to succeed. You stepped out, and in doing so, you left them behind. It wasn't revenge, it was evolution. They're mistaking your self-respect for hostility, but in reality, their anger has nothing to do with you. It's their own insecurities screaming at them, reminding them that they were never as powerful as they thought. Now they sit with their feelings, calling it betrayal, calling it revenge. Let them. It doesn't change the fact that you've moved on to bigger and better things while they're stuck replaying a game that no longer matters. For you, this was never personal. It was just business. For them, it was a reckoning they were never ready to face. Number 4, the illusion of loyalty. You never promised forever. Loyalty is a tricky thing. For some, it's a genuine bond, a mutual understanding rooted in respect. But for others, it's a leash, a tool to keep people in place, to control them under the guise of commitment. You never subscribed to that kind of loyalty. You never promised to stay forever, never signed up to be someone else's pawn. If they feel betrayed now, it's because they mistook your presence for permanence. That's on them, not you. The problem is people assume loyalty means staying the same, no matter how much the world changes around you. They expect you to stay in the same role, to keep playing the part that benefits them, even when it no longer benefits you. But the chosen ones know better. You understand that loyalty isn't about blind obedience. It's about staying true to your values, even if that means walking away from people who don't align with them anymore. You didn't break any promises because you never made promises you didn't intend to keep. Your loyalty was real when it mattered, but when the dynamics shifted, when the game became something that no longer served you, you stepped away. That wasn't betrayal. It was growth. If they're angry, it's because they believed their closeness to you guaranteed their security. They thought they could rely on your loyalty without earning it. Now, they call you disloyal, but what they're really saying is that they're hurt. You chose yourself over them. Let them feel that. Loyalty doesn't mean sacrificing your growth for someone else's comfort. You never promised forever. And even if they assumed you did, it doesn't make you wrong for leaving. Their mistake was thinking proximity was enough to keep you tethered. They forgot you were never meant to be tied down. Number 5, what they call manipulation was simply strategy. To the unprepared, any move they don't understand feels like manipulation. They see the outcome, feel the sting of their own losses, and immediately cry foul. But the truth is simpler than that. You didn't manipulate anyone, you just planned better. While they coasted on assumptions and luck, you were calculating every possibility, weighing every move, and executing with precision. What they call manipulation is simply their inability to recognize the art of strategy. It's not your fault they didn't see the bigger picture. They assumed the game was straightforward, that everyone played the same way, at the same level. But you weren't interested in the surface moves. You saw the patterns, the gaps, the blind spots they didn't even know they had. While they were busy underestimating you, you were using their overconfidence against them. Every action you took was deliberate, every decision part of a broader plan they couldn't even begin to grasp. And now, in their frustration, they label you the villain. Why? Because it's easier for them to blame you than to admit their own ignorance. It's easier to call your strategy manipulation than to admit they didn't bother to think 3 steps ahead. But calling it manipulation doesn't change what happened. The game was fair. They just weren't ready. You didn't cheat, lie, or deceive. You simply understood the rules better and used them to your advantage. If they feel betrayed, it's because they never expected to lose to someone who played smarter, not harder. Strategy isn't manipulation. It's mastery. And if they can't see the difference, that's their problem, not yours. The outcome wasn't luck or trickery. It was the result of preparation meeting opportunity, something they'll have to learn the hard way. Number 6, they played to be liked, you played to win. They were obsessed with being liked, chasing applause, and winning over the crowd. For them, it was all about appearances, making the loudest moves, garnering the most attention, and basking in temporary validation. But you saw through it. You understood that popularity fades, but respect lasts. While they exhausted themselves playing for cheers, you were focused on a bigger goal, winning. Their need for approval became their weakness. Every move they made was tailored to please someone else, to secure fleeting recognition. They craved the spotlight, but they didn't realize it came with strings attached. The crowd's approval is fickle. It shifts as easily as the wind. They built their strategy around maintaining that approval, not realizing that their desperation to be liked was quietly undermining their ambitions. Meanwhile, you played a different game entirely. You weren't looking for applause, you were building something that would last. Every decision you made was calculated, rooted in strength, not in the need to be validated. You understood that respect is earned through results, not theatrics. While they wasted energy trying to win over everyone, you stayed focused, and in the end, it wasn't even a competition. Now, as the dust settles, they're left with the bitter realization that their popularity wasn't enough. It became the very thing that held them back, like a noose tightening with every move they made to keep the crowd happy. And you're standing tall, unbothered by the noise they once thought mattered so much. They played for applause. You played for legacy. That's why they lost, and why you'll always win. Number 7. The rules were fair. They just weren't ready. There was no cheating, no trickery, no underhanded moves, just sheer preparation. The rules were always fair, set from the beginning, and everyone had the same chance to succeed. The problem was, they didn't bother to prepare the way you did. They thought they could coast by on instinct, on luck, or by relying on the same tired strategies that had worked in the past. But you understood the stakes were too high to leave anything to chance. They feel played because they never took you seriously. They saw you as just another participant in the game, assuming you'd fall in line with their expectations. They underestimated your capability, assuming their experience and assumed superiority would always be enough to keep them ahead. But you weren't playing the same game. You studied it, anticipated every possible move, and refined your approach while they were busy celebrating past successes. And now they're confused, hurt, and angry. They expected to win because they thought they had the upper hand, because they failed to recognize that they were not the only ones preparing for victory. They didn't prepare for you. They didn't prepare for what it would take to face someone who was more strategic, more focused, and more willing to go the extra mile. Ignorance is not an excuse when the stakes are this high. They can call it betrayal, call it unfair, but the reality is this. They lost because they didn't respect the game enough to understand that preparation is everything. They felt played because they were never ready to begin with. You didn't break the rules, you simply followed them better than they ever could. Number 8. You studied them, they never studied you. You were always one step ahead, not because you moved faster, but because you saw things they didn't. While they strutted around, caught up in their own delusions of superiority, you were quietly studying them, watching their every move, cataloging their weaknesses, and understanding their blind spots. They thought they were the ones holding the cards, but you had already studied their hand. They never saw you coming because they were too busy looking at themselves in the mirror, convinced of their own invincibility. You weren't just in the game, you were observing it from a vantage point they could never reach. Every decision they made, every mistake they overlooked, was something you filed away for later. You didn't react impulsively like they did. You listened, you watched, and you learned. The more they revealed about themselves, the more you understood how to move against them. They were too wrapped up in their own egos to realize they were being dissected. By the time they figured it out, it was too late. They had already played into your hands. Every move they made, every misstep they took was part of the larger strategy you had quietly put in motion. And when the time came, you didn't have to make a big show of it. You simply moved, and the result was undeniable. They never studied you because they never thought they had to. They believed their arrogance was enough to ensure their dominance. But you weren't just a player to them. You were a study in precision, and while they were too busy admiring their own reflection, you were quietly winning. Now they're left wondering how they lost to someone they thought was beneath them. Number 9. Your patience was a weapon, not a virtue. Patience isn't always a virtue, it's a weapon, and you wielded it with ruthless precision. Every moment you waited wasn't idle or passive, it was a calculated pause, a chance to observe, analyze, and prepare. While they rushed forward, overconfident and impulsive, you stayed still, honing your strategy, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They mistook your patience for hesitation, but in reality, every second you spent holding back was another second you used to sharpen your blade. Complacency became their downfall. They were so focused on moving, so eager to act, that they never took the time to see the bigger picture. They assumed their momentum would carry them through, but they didn't realize that in the game of high stakes, timing is everything. While they got comfortable, their blade dulled with every rushed decision and misstep. They didn't stop to reassess, to adjust, to wait for the right moment. And that's where they failed. But you didn't just wait for nothing. You understood that time wasn't on their side, it was on yours. With every passing moment, you were preparing, calculating your next move, analyzing their weaknesses, and getting closer to the moment where you would strike with surgical precision. When the time came, your strike was clean and decisive, cutting through their overconfidence like a hot knife through butter. They'll never understand how you did it. To them, it seemed like magic, like a stroke of luck. But the truth is, it wasn't luck. It was patience, a quiet weapon they never saw coming. Number 10. They never saw you as a threat, their biggest mistake. The biggest mistake they made wasn't underestimating you, it was completely dismissing you. They saw you as nothing more than a small obstacle, someone easily overlooked, too inconsequential to be a threat. They thought their position was so secure, their dominance so absolute, that you didn't even deserve their attention. And that's exactly where they went wrong. Dismissiveness is the ultimate weakness in any opponent because it blinds them to the potential dangers that lie in plain sight. They underestimated you, not because they didn't see your value, but because they were too consumed by their own ego to acknowledge it. You were beneath their radar, dismissed as irrelevant, and that arrogance played right into your hands. You let them believe they were untouchable, knowing full well that their misplaced confidence would cloud their judgment. They couldn't fathom someone like you ever being a serious threat, so they let their guard down, and that made them vulnerable. The real genius was in how you allowed them to live in that illusion. They felt safe, comfortable, and secure in their assumptions. They kept their focus on bigger targets, thinking they could handle anything you might throw at them. But you didn't need to throw anything. Your silence, your patience, your calculated moves were enough to make them fall. The moment they dismissed you was the moment they sealed their fate. Now, as they watch you rise, they'll have to grapple with the bitter truth. Their biggest mistake wasn't underestimating your power. It was believing you weren't even worth considering in the first place. You weren't a threat to them because you were too small. You were a threat because you were the one they never saw coming. Number 11, your silence was the ultimate strategy. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. While others rushed to speak, to prove themselves, to be seen, you stayed quiet and watched. Silence, when used correctly, is a weapon that few know how to wield. You let them reveal their hand, every insecurity, every assumption, every blind spot. They talked, they flaunted, and they convinced themselves they were untouchable. Meanwhile, you were absorbing everything, sharpening your understanding, and waiting for the right moment to strike. The beauty of silence is that it's underestimated. They mistook your quietness for passivity, for inexperience, maybe even fear. They didn't realize that every second you stayed silent, you were gaining more power. The less you said, the more they exposed themselves. The less you reacted, the more they became careless. You weren't ignoring the game, you were learning how to win it without ever needing to shout about it. And when the time came, your silence turned into precision. You didn't waste words or energy, you simply acted, and the impact was undeniable. They didn't see it coming because they were too busy being loud, too distracted by their need to dominate the conversation. Your silence had lulled them into a false sense of security, and by the time they realized you were never really out of the game, it was already over. Now they feel betrayed, but what did they expect? Silence doesn't mean absence. It means observation. You saw everything, while they were too busy hearing their own voices to see you. In the end, your silence wasn't just a strategy, it was your edge, your advantage, the thing that turned their confidence into their greatest weakness. And now, they'll think twice before underestimating the power of quiet again. Number 12, you didn't play the game, you made the game irrelevant. The ultimate victory wasn't in simply beating them, it was in making their entire game irrelevant. While they were obsessed with playing by the same old rules, locked into the systems that had worked for them in the past, you were quietly dismantling those very systems and building something new. They spent all their energy scrambling to salvage what they thought was a winning strategy. But by the time they realized what was happening, the game had already changed. And you? You were thriving in the new landscape, leaving them to wonder how they'd been so outpaced. They played the game because they thought it was the only one that mattered. They believed success came from mastering the old rules, repeating the same tactics that had worked in the past. But you didn't just learn how to win within those boundaries. You saw those boundaries for what they were, limitations. So instead of trying to fit into the mold, you broke it. You saw the cracks in the system they relied on and made moves that shifted everything. When the dust settled, their game didn't matter anymore. You had already created a new one where their old strategies were obsolete. By the time they caught up, it wasn't about playing anymore. It was about adapting, and they were too late to the table. Their panic, their frantic attempts to hold on to what they thought was control, were futile. You weren't playing by their rules, and you weren't trying to win their way. You made the entire system irrelevant, and in doing so, you became the one who set the terms of the game, leaving them scrambling to figure out where they fit in this new world you had already conquered. In the end, what they failed to realize was that the game was never about who moved the fastest or who yelled the loudest. It was about who understood the game better, who played smarter, and who had the patience to outlast them all. You didn't need to play by the rules because you were always one step ahead, creating your own. Their confidence in their superiority was their greatest weakness, and you exploited it without ever breaking a sweat. They called you cold, calculated, manipulative, but the truth is, you were simply prepared. You weren't driven by ego, but by the understanding that real power doesn't come from pleasing others, from chasing applause, or from fitting into a game that doesn't serve you. It comes from knowing when to act and when to wait, from recognizing your own potential long before anyone else sees it, and from understanding that sometimes the best way to win is to make the old rules irrelevant altogether. Now they're left with a bitter taste of defeat, confused by how they could have lost to someone they thought was beneath them. But the truth is, they were never in control. You played for something bigger, something deeper, and as they scramble to salvage their shattered pride, you'll be far ahead, already thriving in a world they can't even begin to understand. The game wasn't over when they thought it was. It was over the moment you decided the game no longer mattered. And now, you're the one who defines the terms. If you've enjoyed this journey of strategy, patience, and outsmarting the odds, don't miss out on more insights that'll keep you ahead of the game. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and join the community where we dive deep into the art of winning, mastering every move, and breaking free from the constraints of old systems. Don't let the game pass you by. Stay tuned, stay sharp, and stay ahead. Subscribe now, and let's redefine the rules together. God bless you.